Are we ready? Okay. Good evening. Today it's March 11th, and this is a regular meeting of the Governing Board. It is now 5:30. Let the record show that all 5 board members are present. Ms. Smith is participating telephonically. Ms. Agata-Jones, do we have any changes?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. No, we do not.
Okay. At this time, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I will second.
Okay, with a first and a second. Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
And Ms. Smith?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. At this time, the meeting will recess for the purpose of holding a public hearing to receive public comments from affected residents regarding proposed school closures, boundary changes, and/or repurposing of schools in accordance with ARS 15-341.32 and 15-341.37 for the following schools. Phase 1, 2021/2022 school year, Isaac E. Imes school closure, students reassigned to Glen F. Burton, Glendale Landmark, and Harold W. Smith schools. And Melvin E. Sine school closure, students reassigned to Glen F. Burton and Horizon schools. Phase 2, 2022/2023 school year, Coyote Ridge school closure/repurpose, students reassigned to Discovery School. Desert Garden school closure/repurpose, students reassigned to Challenger and Don Menzendick schools. Bicentennial North school closure, students reassigned to Bicentennial South and Don Menzendick schools. Due to COVID-19, the number of individuals allowed in the meeting at one time will be limited. A live stream of the meeting will be available to members of the public awaiting entry to make comments during the hearing. Members of the public must be present to submit comments, and speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Thank you. Not done yet. Good evening, everybody. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive public comments from affected residents regarding proposed school closures, boundary changes, and/or the repurposing of schools. Please remain seated 6 feet apart while each person who wishes to speak is provided the opportunity to comment. You will have no more than 3 minutes to speak. Your time will be displayed on the projection screen to your right. Per policy, during this time, there will be no response from the governing board members. Once you are finished speaking, please exit the boardroom to the right. Thank you.
Buenas tardes. El propósito de esta audiencia pública es recibir los comentarios públicos de los residentes afectados en referencia a las propuestas de cierres de escuelas, los cambios de límites residenciales y o la reutilización de las escuelas. Por favor, permanezcan sentados a 6 pies de distancia mientras cada persona que desee hablar tiene la oportunidad de hacer sus comentarios. No tendrán más de 3 minutos para hablar. Su tiempo se mostrará en la pantalla de proyección a la derecha. Por política, durante ese tiempo no habrá respuestas de los miembros de la Junta Directiva. Una vez que ustedes hayan terminado de hablar, por favor salgan a la derecha de la Junta Directiva, de la sala de la Junta Directiva. Muchas gracias.
Okay. Our first speaker will be Erica Pacheco.
Buenas tardes. Pues el motivo que estoy aquí es porque estoy muy triste porque van a estar a la escuela mis hijos. Tengo 4 hijos y todos han ido ahí. Ella es mi niña más pequeña, va a estar en kinder y yo estoy muy contenta con la maestra que ella tiene. Es muy poquito tiempo que he estado en la computadora y he aprendido mucho con esa maestra. Y pues está triste, es chiquita, pero sí dice que ella no quiere que cierren su escuela. Y pues siempre he estado contenta porque está cerca de mi casa, pasa el bus. Son muy atentas las maestras, las personas que están ahí en la oficina son muy atentas y siempre nos avisan de todo lo que está pasando en la escuela. Sí estoy triste y pienso más en ella y en el 12 años. Los otros 2 niños ya son mayores, gracias a Dios son buenos hijos. Yo estuve muy contenta con esta escuela y sí me da mucha tristeza que la vayan a cerrar. Yo pienso más en ellos y en mí porque pues ellos muy comunicativos siempre con nosotros. Estoy contenta con la escuela y pues les pido por favor que piensen en los niños. Dicen que son poquitos, pero pues los pocos que están tristes y quieren seguir ahí. Tienen compañeros, conviven con ellos, o sea, están felices porque van a entrar, pero no van a estar nomás este fin de año, este ciclo es todo. Y es lo único que van a tener para convivir con sus compañeros. Y les pido de favor que pues piensen en eso también, que no la cierren. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here the motive of my presence here is to ask you not to close the school. We're very saddened over this. The staff there is a great, excellent staff. They're very attentive to the needs of parents and kids. The community the kids are happy that they're going to be returning. However, they're going to be returning only for the remainder of this quarter, and then they're sad because of this. I'm asking you to think about the children as they return to class, and they're happy to be getting together with their peers. So please don't close the school. I thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker will be, I believe it's Dawson Flores and Alexa Flores.
I'm a student from Isaac E. Imes, and when I found out I'm a student from Isaac E. Imes, And when I found out that our school was closing, I got really sad. Me and my family sent all our prayers for Isaac Camps not to close. Isaac Camps is a really great school. All the teachers are really nice, and the staffs are really kind. We really wish that Isaac Camps will not close. That's all I have to say.
Buenas tardes a todos. Es un privilegio estar con ustedes. Lo único que quiero hacer es tener la oportunidad a los niños que no estén en la escuela. Tienen un año durante el COVID, un año en la línea. No es igual estar un año con los niños, compartiendo la clase con sus maestros, sus teachers, sus amigos. Durante un año es muy diferente. Están muy tristes. Si ustedes tienen la decisión, tomar la decisión de cerrar la escuela, le van a hacer mucho daño a estos niños. Porque estas escuelas son hispanas, la mayoría que quieren cerrar. Yo lo único que quiero que sepan que un día de ellos van a crecer y van a estar sentados ahí, al lugar de ustedes, y van a tomar las decisiones importantes en su vida. Yo quiero que capaciten las decisiones que van a tomar. Porque durante un año ellos están tristes, que quieren regresar a la escuela. Ahora, nosotros como padres les vamos a decir que van a cerrar la escuela, ellos se van a poner tristes. ¿Por qué? Porque va a ser algo indiferente para ellos. Ellos son niños, ellos van creciendo, es una oportunidad, le están dando una oportunidad a ellos para que estudien. La educación es lo más importante sobre todas las cosas. Yo creo que ustedes tienen la capacidad, ustedes tienen la inteligencia de decidir las decisiones que tomen. Pero antes que tomen una decisión incorrecta o correcta, que a mí no me involucra, pero ustedes sí, porque ustedes tienen la autoridad, tienen la decisión de tomar un futuro a estos niños que están pidiendo que no cierren su escuela. Hay mamás, hay niños allá afuera con el frío, pero vienen con esa esperanza que ustedes, cada uno de ustedes que están sentados aquí, tienen la oportunidad de hacer felices a sus niños. Por favor, no rompen sus ilusiones, sus sueños, toda esta capacidad que yo digo, y creo que el intérprete digan todo lo que estoy diciendo, porque es importante. Ustedes son los mejores que pueden tomar las decisiones para ellos. Ahorita ellos están tristes, no saben lo que están pasando, ellos los acompañan, pero realmente ellos en fondo de su corazón están tristes en la casa, quieren ver a sus maestros, compañeros. ¿Qué le vamos a decir? Ustedes son padres, tienen hijos, ustedes tienen la oportunidad de llevarlos a colegios, a escuelas, a diferentes partes. Pero nosotros queremos que la escuela que están ellos, que van creciendo, que no se cierren. Durante mucho tiempo están abiertas esas escuelas. Hay muchos lugares, la educación es importante porque hay muchos lugares que están abiertos, por ejemplo, bares, que eso que le van a ayudar a la educación de nuestros hijos. Hay muchos niños que salen de la escuela y ¿a dónde van? Quieren estudiar, pero si ustedes le quitan esa oportunidad a ellos, el día de mañana, ¿dónde van a estar esos niños? Los vamos a ver en las calles, en las pandillas, en la drogación. ¿A dónde quieren que vean esos niños? A lo mejor es que no les interesa, pero son nuestros hijos, ustedes son padres. Gracias por esa oportunidad que nos dan de venir a expresar hacia ustedes. Y les pido una disculpa si les ofendí a cada uno de ustedes.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. The children there have been online for over a year, ever since COVID started. If you decide to close the school, they will be very sad. Most of the kids at the site are Hispanic, and someday they'll grow up, and hopefully they'll be sitting where you are sitting. And if not, they might not have an opportunity to have a bright future. You have the opportunity not to break their hearts, not to interrupt their dreams in the meantime, they are sad. You are parents. Hopefully you can see it from our perspective. Education is the most important thing to us. Closing down the school could put the kids out, not be able to maybe go to school anymore. They might turn to drugs, they might turn to gangs. So please consider this and do not close the school. I do want to apologize if my words offended any one of you, but I am a very concerned parent.
Next up is Juliana Martinez.
Buenas tardes. Les quiero dar las gracias por darme la oportunidad, más que nada, de venir a dar mi punto de vista o lo que yo pienso, ¿verdad? Pues ahorita la verdad, todos estamos tristes y a final de cuentas, porque van a cerrar la escuela, ¿verdad? Pero a final de cuentas van a tener ustedes la decisión de hacerlo o no hacerlo. Yo les pido a que más que pongamos la decisión en lo que se gasta, en lo que no aporta o muchas cosas, en todo lo material. A veces estamos tan metidos en lo material y no nos damos cuenta como seres humanos que a veces a los que menos tomamos en cuenta son a los niños. Para mí, yo les puedo decir desde mi punto de vista como madre, como voluntaria, que en la escuela hemos formado ese grupo de mamás y de mamás, hemos formado ese grupo de mamás en que estamos en conexión tanto con los alumnos y como los padres. Sé que no son todos los padres porque cada padre tiene su punto de vista, pero creo que la Imes es una de las escuelas en donde tiene unas mamás que se reúnen y que les interesa el bienestar de sus hijos. Entonces, hemos formado ese grupo y eso creo que ha ayudado y me gustaría mucho que lo tomaran en cuenta porque ahí vamos a meter, vamos a cerrar la escuela y vamos a meter a esos niños quizás a otras escuelas en donde ya está saturado. Y les digo esto porque yo vengo de la escuela Imes, desde la primera vez que la iban a cerrar. Mi hijo en la Imes, habían tantos niños que eran, no sé si eran como 30 y tantos niños, cuando lo movieron a la Williams, cuando lo movieron a la Imes, fueron más pocos niños. Hubo más atención de parte de los maestros y también por parte mío, ¿verdad? Que como madres yo les digo que hablo y que hay muchas madres, al igual que yo, que estamos en ese involucramiento, en el interés de que nuestros hijos tengan una mejor educación, porque también con nuestro ejemplo les mostramos a nuestros hijos que estamos al pendiente de ellos. Yo sé que no somos todos, porque quizás papás tienen que trabajar, porque no tienen tiempo, porque tienen que ir a traer la comida, pero de esas pocas que estamos allí, podemos también estar al cuidado de los otros niños y podemos hacer también esa diferencia de que esta escuela que estamos formando, creo que Imes es una de las pocas escuelas en donde se reúnen más padres, en donde hemos tenido juntas para poder crecer, para poder ayudar, para poder apoyar. Y el objetivo de esto, para mí, es que se tomara en cuenta todo eso, que se tomara en cuenta los niños, que se tomara en cuenta más que de la mente y de lo material, que lo empezáramos a ver desde la parte humana, desde el corazón. Gracias.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for allowing me to present my point of view here this evening. And I want you to consider all the things that, because it seems to me that all we're just talking about the material things, the budgets, and we're not looking at the human part of this, which is the children. At school, at Imes, we have formed a very involved group of mothers. And I want you to understand that being there has really gotten us involved. I'm not too crazy about the idea about having my kid going to another school where the results of children going to other schools might end up being in a school that becomes overcrowded. There are a lot of mothers at Imes that want the best education for their children, and all of us look out for other children as well. That's a school that's taught us to look out for one another. So if you really want to have a great number of a great number of kids going to other schools, so you want to keep them in their local school. And not just look at the environment that we currently have with budgets and all that, but look at the human aspect of this and how it's going to affect the children.
All right, our next speaker is Ashley Salgado and Aldo Ramirez.
Okay, we're here to represent some of the children from Imes Elementary School. I'm going to be talking about the social life of our school and how much we appreciate all the teachers, the faculty, and everything in the school. All of our friendships and all of our education started at the school, and we're hoping that we can continue it and further on so that we can graduate from this school and go to high school.
We have been taught a lot about in every class about a lot of stuff, to reading, to social studies, and our teachers have put a lot of attention to our studies, and we hope we don't stop.
And we love the school. We please hope that you guys can reconsider shutting down our school, because we would love to go there for one last time for at least a little bit longer, because we really do appreciate this school. This is where all of our lives started, and everything that we love and all just started there.
We had made a lot of memories with our friends and teachers and other people that have helped our school, like the faculty people.
And we really do enjoy this school, so can you please reconsider, because a lot of children depend on our schools, and a lot of kids are outside. They're all just hoping that you can let us go to the school again. So please reconsider, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Bobby Casares.
Good evening. I'm here to do a couple of things tonight, and one is to make sure that you take into consideration that this is no time to be making decisions on any of the schools. Let's wait until the pandemic ends and take your meeting to Isaac Imes so you can get a real taste of how the community sees this. I'm so proud of the people that have assembled tonight, because they were unaware that this meeting took place. They learned it from the last meeting. They got word. There's people passing petitions. Anyway, I'm here because there's something very important I want you to think about. And that was what I brought up last time about the learning loss, but more importantly, how is this affecting the children? Each of you have kids. These are hardships. This is a crisis to the community. You're taking something that's been there forever. I'm going to go to the most important point here. I grew up, went to Unit 2 for 3 years, and then moved here. We were the first Hispanics in this area. I know all about discrimination and prejudice because we lived it. We weren't even accepted when we first moved here by police or anyone. Okay, so let me bring up a good point here. The school was built in 1942. This administration failed to recognize our community when they reached 50 years. I talked to Mr. Short from the Glendale Historical Society as to how come we were never designated as a historical school. He said, well, the community has to do that, but you have to also work with the administration. So I'm here to formally request that we work with the Historical Society and put a plaque on that school. That school was built out of racism. Okay, and look at the architectural plans, Mexican school. We weren't allowed to come north of Glendale Avenue. Glendale Avenue was, the stores that were really racist had no dogs and no Mexicans allowed. It took time for us to get ourselves together and say, we're going to overcome this. Do you know how many people have graduated from Isaac Imes, went on to Glendale High School? We recognize Glendale. It's over 112 years old, I believe. And then we have this school. Former Superintendent Quintana found an answer and a solution to the problems when the school needed the work that it did when it was crumbling. But we've never given the fairness or the same attention to Isaac Imes that we did to Unit 1, and I love both schools. You know, I don't have kids in school, but I vote so that we can have a better future for our children. This is not just about Hispanics. I grew up around white people in a white neighborhood. And I never knew what racism was because I wasn't discriminated by our neighbors. We grew to appreciate the relationships. Please do not just make a decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Dolores Kalinowski.
Please don't close the 5 schools. I am a taxpayer, and I think that it's important for parents to send their children to neighborhood schools, and it is very important. But we pay a lot of school taxes, and our sons went to Horizon School, and we never had any problems with anything with the bond issue. But it is important that you do not close these 5 schools so that 2 parents could work and send their children to a good school. Thank you.
Thank you. If I mispronounce it, I apologize. Amatai Higuera and Yamila Higuera.
Hi, my name is Yamile Tequera. I was here because I don't want you guys to close Isaac Imes. It's like the best school I have been in, and I started learning there since 2nd grade, and now I'm in 5th grade, and I want to keep on learning there. There's such great teachers, right? There's some of my friends. I like it there. There's a lot of things.
And we also grew up in that school. We didn't know any English, but now we actually can talk it. So we really don't want you guys to close school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sarah Rodriguez and Alicia Ozuno.
I'm a student of Isaac Imes, and I don't want you guys to close the school because I started going to Isaac Imes in Head Start, and I grew up there, and now I'm in 5th grade, and I made a lot of friends, and I like all the teachers there, and growing up in a school that could get shutting down, to me it looks like there's a lot of kids in class, but there might not always be a lot of kids, and I don't think you guys should close the school because there's been a lot of people who grew up in that school and made a bunch of friendships and made bonds with teachers, and basically Isaac Imes was my second home away from my mom and my brother, and yeah, thank you.
Please don't close Imes. Like me personally, I went to Imes growing up, and then I transferred to Landmark. When I came to Landmark, the friends that were going to Imes compared to Landmark, it seemed like they were like at Imes on a higher level, because when I went to Apollo and they went to Apollo, they knew more than what I was doing. So it was like, wow, that's crazy. The books that they were given at Imes versus Landmark when I was in elementary, it was like totally different. Like their books was way more better. And then also too, I have a son who has an IEP. So for him to get taken away from the teachers who know his IEP, he's gonna go into a whole new school to get to know people. And this is his last 2 years when he goes in, because obviously he's gonna start school next year in a whole new school if you guys do close it. So it's like, he's gonna struggle even more. You know what I mean? He made big accomplishments. He's trying his best. He's been bullied. The teachers, when he gets bullied, the teachers are there to help him, to give him the best advice, and they're always there for him no matter what. So it's kind of hard for him, you know what I mean? Especially him just having his IEP and then going into school, having to get to know new friends, know the teachers, and then also the teachers having to get to know him. You know what I mean? So for him, I just kind of feel bad for my son, especially all the kids with an IEP. So just, have some consideration. Like I said, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
And Mario Treviso and Susie Treviso.
Hello and good evening, Madam President and members of the board. My name is Mario Treviso and I am a student at Coyote Ridge Elementary School. I have been aware that Coyote Ridge and 4 other schools are closing. This does not make sense to me because we have great students and teachers at our school and of course our great principal, Mr. Abbott. It would be hard to see them go just because the school is closing because of low enrollment. I have seen the numbers and it is barely 1,000 students, enough to fit an entire school. We probably would not have this problem if school would have stayed back in person because Peoria and Phoenix have stayed in person and don't have low enrollment, but have higher enrollment because parents and teachers don't have that much stress. I have friends in Phoenix and Peoria and they are having lots of fun and are glad to see their friends in person. Now, if you put yourself in the student's shoes, how do you think it would feel for your school to be shut down? And also, if you put yourself in the teachers' and principals' shoes, how would it feel for you to lose your job? So I ask that Madam President and members of the board to please don't close Coyote Ridge and the 4 other schools. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mario Treviso. Thank you, Madam President and members of the board for taking time to hear the community's concerns. As you, Madam President, and board members have heard in the past board meetings and open forums, the community has asked many great questions, which some were answered and some questions only brought up additional unanswered questions. In talking to the parents of the students, the question came up on how the proposed school closures, which are expected to save the school district approximately $3 million, going to solve the projected $18 million deficit. This question clearly shows closing down the proposed schools will not alleviate this financial hardship. In yesterday's board meeting, one of the board members brought up a great question. The question was, will the schools that currently offer community care counseling through the care system stop providing care at that school? The answer to the question from the school district was that the schools that are currently offering care programs will not offer the care system at that school, will not stop offering the care system at that school. So why is the school district going to close down Coyote Ridge, affecting numerous students and teachers to increase the care system? If the care system program will continue to be offered at the schools that are currently offering it, which is said to be working just fine, why close down a school to fix something that's not broken? The school district is looking to fix this financial deficit the wrong way. What the school district has done is put you, the school board members, in a tough situation due to the way they mismanaged the budget and wanting you to help them fix it for them in a tough way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Look at the ladies out there. The ladies were out there.
Good evening, everybody. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive public comments from affected residents regarding proposed school closures, boundary changes, and/or the repurposing of schools. Please remain seated 6 feet apart while each person who wishes to speak is provided the opportunity to comment. You will have no more than 3 minutes to speak. Your time will be displayed on the projection screen to your right. Per policy, during this time, there will be no response from the governing board members. Once you are finished speaking, please exit the boardroom to your right. Thank you. Our first speaker will be Ana Herrera. Oh, sorry.
Buenas tardes. El propósito de esta audiencia pública es recibir los comentarios públicos de los residentes afectados en referencia a las propuestas de cierres de las escuelas, los cambios de límites residenciales y o la reutilización de las escuelas. Por favor, permanezcan sentados a 6 pies de distancia mientras cada persona que desee hablar tiene la oportunidad de hacer sus comentarios. No tendrá más de 3 minutos para hablar. Su tiempo se mostrará en la pantalla de proyección a su derecha. Por política, durante este tiempo no habrá respuestas de los miembros de la Junta Directiva. Una vez que ustedes hayan terminado de hablar, por favor salgan de la sala de la Junta Directiva hacia la derecha. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Ana Herrera.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Ana Herrera. Gracias por dar la oportunidad de expresarnos. Estoy aquí hoy con mucho respeto, pero también con mucho orgullo, representando una comunidad de padres increíbles. Es una comunidad de padres activos, comprometidos, presentes en la educación de los niños de su escuela. Es la escuela Imes. Ellos son los únicos que están ahí afuera y han estado siempre. Ellos son los únicos que a mí me consta que han venido caminando, que han reunido firmas, que han reunido lo más que han podido, que han hablado, que han salido de sus casas, que se han unido porque quieren salvar su escuela. Es increíble y les tengo que confesar una cosa. Yo también soy madre. Mis hijos también van a una escuela de este mismo distrito escolar. Pero por la escuela que yo estoy aquí hoy hablando, no es por la escuela de mis hijos. Esto es increíble. Porque de la escuela de mis hijos no hay nadie ahí. Nadie como los de la escuela de Imes. Sí, yo tengo un part-time con la escuela de Imes. Yo soy Family Advocate de la escuela de Imes. El año pasado entré a trabajar ahí y estoy orgullosa de ver cómo una comunidad hispana, el 90%, más del 90% de esta comunidad de personas hispanas son tan activos y aman Imes y no van a permitir que lo cierren porque son padres y a mí me consta que si los convocamos a clases para ser mejores padres, ellos están ahí. Si los convocamos a una clase para que ellos cocinen con sus hijos, ellos están ahí. Clases de jardinería, cómo sembrar un jardín con sus hijos, ellos están ahí. Y díganme ustedes si todas las escuelas de los distritos ofrecen este tipo de clases y actividades en las cuales unen a sus hijos con sus padres. Yo no lo creo porque en mi escuela no hay nada de eso. Y no voy a decir cuál es mi escuela porque no voy a hablar mal de esa escuela, porque también la amo. Pero sí tengo que aceptar que Imes es una gran escuela, una escuela que hace mucho por la comunidad, por mi comunidad, por nuestra comunidad. Es una comunidad unida que no la pueden cerrar porque es una comunidad que se va a perder. Esa unión que ya existe de por años. Es una escuela con tanta historia. Ustedes lo saben mejor que yo. No cierren Imes. Por favor, salven Imes. Y yo estoy segura, y yo porque estoy de cerca con los padres, sé que si ustedes le dan otra oportunidad a Imes, Imes se va a levantar más fuerte porque van a aprovechar esta oportunidad. No cierren Imes, por favor.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm here representing a very strong group of parents. I'm very proud of all the parents because they are totally engaged and their full commitment is to Imes. I'm here not to represent my school because I do have a part-time job at Imes. I'm here because I've seen what Imes has done with the community, and it's just amazing what Imes and the parents do there, the teachers do there. If you gather the parents to come and help or do a class, anything from cooking to gardening, parents show up with their kids in tow. Their kids are here because they want to save Imes. They walked all the way over here and to let you know that they love their school. And if you can tell me what other school in the district has a stronger group of parents. In my school, you don't see that. I'm not going to tell you what my school is. However, I do love Imes. The kids here do love Imes. This school has a history. It represents a very strong community. I ask you here, beg you, please don't close Imes.
Next is Sunday Rob and Steve Makowski.
Hello, my name is Miss Sunday, or that's what my family at Sine call me. I'm the resource EA, small reading group instructor, and most of all, I'm a Sine parent. I'd like to start by reading a quote from last week's social-emotional tip of the week. Communication is an extremely important component of building relationship skills. Active listening is a form of communication that serves to establish and maintain healthy and supportive relationships. Active listening involves being non-judgmental and giving your full, undivided attention. This can allow you to learn a lot about others you engage with and will add value to the quality of your relationship. To improve this skill, be intentional and practice active listening regularly. I'd like to ask you to keep this in mind as I continue and others speak before you. 4 years ago, my son was accepted into the preschool program at Sine. We fell in love with the school and the family it provided. We moved to be closer to the school. My son found friends and teachers who not only cared but loved him, and I myself found a passion to teach, becoming a better, more patient mother while helping students like my son grow. I was encouraged by my now coworkers to stop my daily volunteering and to take a job with the district. My son's kindergarten teacher bought me a book to study for my GED, and his first grade teacher called me when a position at Sine and Resource opened. This was while I was currently employed at Discovery. I did not have an interview for my dream job with Ms. Baker, our principal at the time. She offered it to me when I said I wanted to transfer. Mr. King, our assistant principal, now principal, was excited to welcome me on my first day as a member of the Sine staff. Melvin Sine is not a school. It is a home, a family. I now have to remind 5-year-olds over Google Meets that it's okay to be sad. That we might lose our home, but as their teacher, I'm going to do everything I can to keep our home. Because these aren't just my students. These are my children. And I know I'm not the only teacher who feels like I do. I implore you, please do not close this children's home away from home. As a community, help us reach out and gain the financial and physical support we need to fix our schools. Help us save our children. All in for all kids does not mean as long as they give us that money.
Thank you.
It means we do all we can for our kids until we can't anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Caitlin Grimes.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Grimes, and my daughter is a third grader at Coyote Ridge. 9 years ago, my husband and I bought our home because of close proximity to Coyote Ridge Elementary School. Every day since Emmy was in kindergarten, we have walked her to school. In August, we will have 2 students at Coyote Ridge, and the year after that, we will add another student to the list, and we plan to walk them to school just like we've been walking Emmy these past 3 years. Every election, we have voted to fund the schools with whatever tax or bond was proposed. We believe in the public school system. It is a system that works when done right. Do you know how many Coyote Ridge students walk or ride their bikes to school? That seems like an important number to know. Moving those students to a school that is further away will add another burden to their education, as if living in a lower income community and being a minority were not enough. Taking around 700 students from a school that has a 19-to-1 student-teacher ratio and moving them to a different school with roughly 700 students and the same student-teacher ratio does not make sense. This is not the right way to manage the public school system here in Glendale. Please consider the families and the 700-plus students that go to Coyote Ridge, and do not move them to Discovery Elementary to repurpose the school for a healthcare campus. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Justine Kramer.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Justine Kramer. I'm here for Sine. My daughter, she's a little shy right now. She's been in Sine since she was in kinder, and I'm here to speak up for Sine. Hopefully we can keep this school open and fight for it and do what we can. We just moved into the district 4 years ago, and I want to support them. My girls have come to love the school. We appreciate the staff and everything they've done. I see all the kids that they've grown around, they walk to school. If you move them to 2 different schools, it's going to be harder not only on the parents, but on the kids. She's sad that she's already hearing that we're going to close. I don't want that to happen. I want to fight for Sine. I want to fight for the kids. I work for the school district as an EA in the preschool. And my son just entered in, and I really, really want to keep it open. And if there's anything that the parents and anybody outside can do to help keep it open, I'm willing to work hard. So please keep Sine open. Please understand that these parents are willing to do anything they can to keep all these schools open.
Thank you. Next is Maria Meza.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Mesa. Vengo por parte de la escuela Imes. Yo tengo 4 hijos. Mis 4 hijos desde kinder han asistido a la escuela Imes. Ahorita tengo una hija en el primer año de colegio, tengo otra en segundo año de high school. Todos mis hijos han empezado en esa escuela desde el kinder. Todavía me queda una niña en 6º grado y un niño en primer grado. A mí me preocupa mucho la educación, pero también me preocupa mucho la seguridad de mis hijos. Y la escuela Imes, yo en esa escuela tengo mucha confianza y mis hijos siempre han estado seguros ahí. Son buenos los maestros que están ahí. 2 de mis hijas estuvieron con el mismo maestro 2, 3 años porque fueron subiendo de grado con el maestro. Es una buena escuela, es segura. Yo soy miembro de esa escuela desde el 2016 y nunca he tenido problemas con ninguno de mis hijos por parte de los maestros o incidentes dentro de esa escuela. Yo no quiero que cierren esa escuela por la seguridad y la confianza que siento ahí. Si yo llego y pregunto en la oficina por mis hijos, en cuanto digo el apellido de mis hijos, hasta las secretarias los conocen.
las de la librería conocen a mis hijos. Yo me quedo en casa confiada que mis hijos van a estar bien en la escuela y me da mucho miedo que vayan a tener que ir a otra escuela donde nadie los conoce. Es una escuela muy bonita porque empiezan desde el kinder y salen hasta 8 grado. A mí me consta, yo los dejo en la parada del bus y es muy bonito que los mismos niños de 8 grado a veces se encarguen de cuidar a los niños más chiquitos porque ellos mismos estuvieron en el lugar de los niños chiquitos. Es muy bonito ver esa escuela, mirar los niños que entran desde kinder y salen hechos unos adolescentes. Ahorita como están pasando las cosas, mis hijos no han tenido ningún problema de que tienen buenos maestros, no han bajado sus grados. Por favor, consideren en salvar a Imes. Para mí es una escuela muy segura para los niños. Gracias.
Good evening. I've had 4 kids from kinder to 8th grade at Imes. One is in college right now, another one's in high school. I still have 2 more there, one in 6th grade, one in kinder. I do worry about my kids and what would happen if they don't go to Imes. I feel that the school, I've always tried to trust the school with my children being safe there. 2 of my kids had a teacher where they looked from year to year with the teacher, and their learning was tremendous. I do have my full trust with the school in knowing that my kids will be safe there. All the staff know my kids. If I go there, the librarian or the secretary know my kids. It's nice to see at times, like at the bus stop sometimes, when the older kids take care of the young ones because they remember that they were young at one time. It's very nice to see how the kids progress as little children and come out of there as very nice adolescents.
Next is Karen Dorado.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Karen. Con el respeto que merecen, vengo representando a la escuela Imes. Como ustedes saben, tuvimos un 2020 demasiado difícil. Por favor, que el 2021 no sea más difícil para nuestros hijos, pues en todo este tiempo ellos han sido los únicos guerreros. Ahora ellos están con sus emociones al 100. Por favor, no hagan caer su emoción, porque siempre hay una solución. Imes es una gran escuela.
Thank you.
Good evening. With all the respect you deserve, I'm here to let you know that Imes is a great school. Just to let you know also that the year 2020 was very difficult for our kids, and please don't make 2021 just as hard. Those are children that deserve the best, and they have the best right now with that school. Please, please do not close Imes. It's a great school.
And our next speaker is Alexandra Pananori.
Hello, members of the board. Speaking in front of you honestly scares me because speaking in front of people overall scares me a lot. I'm here to speak because this is a topic worth speaking about. I'm coming to represent from Imes. I've been to that school. I've been to that school before, and now I'm in high school. My siblings have all gone to this school. My baby cousin here is currently in that school in kindergarten. And my sister used to be bullied like every day. And people didn't care. But then one day she decided to tell the teachers, and they helped her. Like, they stopped the bullying, they did something for her. Other schools don't tend to do this. They ignore bullying. And this school didn't, because they're such a close group that when some bullying is happening, they take action very quickly. While other schools are bigger and they can't really take action as quickly because they're not so tight. My baby cousin here, he doesn't speak English. He speaks only Spanish. And most schools tend to take these kids who only speak Spanish and they drive them apart from the group. They make them seem less from the others because they can't really speak the language. This school doesn't. This school takes the time to say everything in English and then Spanish so that he can learn. He's one of the best of his class and he can't even speak the language. That should tell you guys something. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, we have no more speakers, so I would ask that we have a motion to reconvene for our regular meeting.
Motion to reconvene?
I will second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. At this time, we are on call to the public. And I have three letters. First one is from the GEA executive team: Matthew Schock, Samantha Moyer, Megan McCabe, Nancy Macaron, Elizabeth Seifter, and Jane Stitzer. Dear Board President, members of the Board, and Superintendent Sagata Jones. Over the past 2 months, we have heard statements and testimony from families, community members, and staff members about the possible closure of public schools in Glendale. Parents and families have shared their fears and concerns of their schools closing and are concerned about the well-being of their children having to start at new schools. Our Glendale families do not just depend on our schools for their children's academic needs, but our schools provide social and emotional support, food services, extracurricular activities, and much more. For some families, these schools have been providing these services for decades. We know that our Glendale community will be devastated by the loss of these schools. The Glendale Education Association appreciates all of the community members who have expressed their concerns. We hope you truly take to heart all of the statements you have heard when you make your decision tonight. We want to thank all stakeholders for standing up for our Glendale elementary schools and speaking out against these school closures. Sincerely, GEA Executive Team, Matthew Schock, President, Samantha Moyer, Vice President, Megan McCabe, Treasurer, Nancy Macaroon, Advocacy, Elizabeth Seifter, Secretary, and Jane Stitzer, Advocacy. Next is from Sharon Lidecote, Superintendent, Board President, and Board members. Hello, my name is Sharon Lidecote, and I am a 19-year veteran GESD teacher as well as a Glendale native. I would first like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for all your hard work during this most difficult and unprecedented year. That being said, I would like to address some concerns I have, not only as a long-term GESD employee, but also as a Glendale resident and a taxpayer. I've struggled with writing this last appeal to you in part because I feel as though I have so much at stake. I am employed by GESD, so closing schools affects me greatly, professionally, and emotionally. I grew up in Glendale and attended both Imes and Sine, so again, closing these schools affects me greatly emotionally. I taught at both Coyote Ridge and Desert Garden, and of course I am an Imes teacher, so again, all of this affects me emotionally. All of these emotional effects aside, I am concerned for so many other reasons. My home value stands to decrease once an empty school is left in my neighborhood and begins to deteriorate and increase the influx of homeless and other disadvantaged people into an area already suffering from an influx of such people. If the intention is to somehow maintain and upkeep this and the other empty schools, my tax dollars are being spent to pay for these empty and unused facilities. While I absolutely see and agree with the value behind the Systems of Care plan, I also have a great concern with the fact that it will be servicing the general public and not just GESD families and students. While I believe that those of you making these decisions don't live in the same type of area as I do, I can assure you it's very difficult, and the situations that can arise with the closing of these schools and the opening of a facility like this are likely to increase the influx of homeless into an area that is fast becoming extremely low socioeconomic and inundated with homeless, drug addicts, and migrant people. When you compound the opening of this type of facility with leaving a facility closed just a few blocks away, the community implications are mind-boggling. I also found myself concerned with some things I perceived from last night's meeting. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but what I heard was that a building exceeds its useful life after 50 years and needs to be torn down and reconstructed. Again, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe this only to be true if said building has not been maintained throughout its time, as can be seen throughout the sites in GESD. If we are going with this plan of closing 5 schools to get the state to build us a new school, then I would question whether or not we are then intending to maintain these reconstructed sites so as to keep them structurally sound and operational. I can assure you that a building can and should last well beyond 50 years if it has been maintained throughout its operating time. And if we are looking at using the equation of the closing of 5 equals the building of 1 brand new, can we expect that schools like Challenger, that had to have students bused to a neighboring district just a few years ago, so as its dilapidated walls could be shored up enough to allow students to remain in the building, or Desert Garden, which in the past has been overrun by fleas and had consistently had an issue with scorpions, but will now be designated as a district preschool, will be next to be closed or repurposed in order to get the state to build us a new site. How many students are we willing to displace and stack into classrooms to attempt to have the state build us new sites to compensate for the sites that have not been maintained in GSD for so long, or to compensate for the monies that have been mismanaged for so long? I think everyone can agree that something needs to be done. Both gross long-term mismanagement of our funds as well as declining student enrollment has led to an untenable situation. You hold in your hands, in your decision, my future in the most literal sense possible. I work for GSD. I live and pay taxes in Glendale. Your decision will quite literally affect every aspect of my life. I am asking that you please stop and consider carefully the decisions you make here tonight. Consider the true repercussions of closing Imes School. Consider the true repercussions of leaving campuses empty in our communities. Consider what we can do as a district to bring children back instead of shuttering up sites. Bring change and innovation to our instruction. Consider what changes we can make in how our money is handled and look for reasonable areas that can be cut. Consider the effects you will have on all of the areas of Glendale, the students, parents, staff, everyone involved in the momentous decision you have before you this evening. Please consider carefully. Thank you, Sharon Lidecote. And the last one is from Maria Politis, Superintendent, Board President, and board members. My name is Maria Politis, and I am a 23-year-old veteran teacher who moved to Arizona 13 years ago and started working at Imes. The Imes community is very unique. It has a community that has been here for many years. The school is the heart of the community. I have been very fortunate to work at schools that have been community-based in the past. I have only worked at 3 schools in my career, and I wanted that experience when I moved here, which I found in Imes. The dynamics of the staff, the parents, the students, and the community make it my home away from home. Imes community has been my family. That being said, I know when I sign my contract, it states that I work for Glendale Elementary, not for a specific school. I have invested time and my heart at Imes in building relationships with students, parents, and staff. So I am writing to bring your attention to a concern I have regarding the closure plans facing the GESD community. The concern I have in regard to the closures of these schools is the cost to maintain the facilities as they stand empty. These schools will still require running water, electricity, landscaping, maintenance, air conditioning, and heating units to be run and maintained, as well as many other aspects of maintaining these properties. Why couldn't Imes be considered to be repurposed as something else? I don't want to see Imes or any other school just left empty in the middle of a community. It will be sad to see the community divided. You have a big, difficult decision before you this evening. Please consider all that would be impacted, students, staff, and the Glendale communities. Thank you for taking the time to listen to some of my concern regarding this matter. Sincerely, Maria Politis. At this time, we are now on item 4, the consent agenda. Do board members wish for any items to be pulled aside for discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
And Ms. Smith?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. We are now on item 5.
Yes, good evening, Madam President, members of the board. It is recommended the governing board approve the closure of Isaac E. Imes School and corresponding boundary changes to reassign students to Harold W. Smith, Glenn F. Burton, and Glendale Landmark Schools effective for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
Okay. Do we have any discussion?
Madam President, if I might. Well, first of all, I want to thank all those that came out and made comments about the closure of their school, and especially the young people that expressed themselves so well with their concerns. You know, nobody wants their school to close, and I think we all feel the pain. But the data doesn't lie, and Mr. Berrigan has been bringing numbers to us for quite some time now, as far back as 2019 on the declining enrollment. But it's just not the lack of enrollment that brings us to this. I think there's several other factors. Current year funding has created a lot of financial instability and not allowed this district to do any planning. And Mr. Berrigan has spoken to that at the presentations. And not just that, but the lack of capital funding. And so I think we have to stop and think that the state plays a large role. They're to blame in a lot of this as well. But I think we have to do what's best for the children and for our staff. And everybody needs to have a safe school to be in, needs to have the right materials needs to be able to have things fixed when they need to be fixed, and the staff needs to have raises when they need to, when we have, comes up for raises, good benefits. So there's a lot at stake here, and we don't take this very lightly.
Thank you. And any other comments?
I've kind of, I'm sorry, got just one small comment. I know I've talked to several of the board members here about sort of my history with Imes. I have 2 kids that went to preschool at Imes. I've had a number of family members and friends that worked at Imes. I could probably close my eyes and walk my way through the front office of that school without hitting a desk. That's how many times I've been in that front office when my kids were younger. But being up here, sometimes we have to make dispassionate decisions about something that people are very passionate about. And when it comes down to, like Ms. Wilson said, first of all, the building is older than my parents. Maintenance will only get you so far in a building that's 79 years old. We've seen a large decline in enrollment, and 10 years out, it is slated to be the lowest enrolled school in the district. I believe the numbers kind of speak for themselves, and I know there's been a lot of information going around and about mismanaging money and things like that. It's all I can ask is, whatever it is that you get paid from your job, take 25 to 30% of that and throw it away, and then that's what you have to work with. And that's the decision that we find ourselves in tonight. And I think we need to make the decision in the best financial need of the district, as painful as it is. Whether it's Imes or Sine or any of the districts, and any of the districts' other school sites, all of them are going to be hard. And a closure like this is never going to be taken lightly. So I feel very attached to it. But we have to make a decision based off of the data that we have. And that's really kind of the best decision we can make going forward.
Thank you. Any other comments? I would just like to add, there's not a single person in this room or on the staff of this district that does not take this lightly. It is a very painful decision that none of us wish to be in. But unfortunately, we have to do our due diligence, to ensure that we can provide the education and the safe schools for the students of this community. With that, I need a motion.
A motion to approve action item A for the closure of Isaac E. Imes School and boundary changes.
I'll second.
Okay, with that, I have a first and a second. Ms. Wilson.
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel.
I'd like to explain my vote. Over the last 3 months, and especially in the last month, I've received many calls, texts, emails from our parents, from our community, from elected leaders, community activists. They want to know what's going on. They want to know if there's something different than what's being put out there. They don't want their schools to close. I'm being told I cannot let this happen. And some calls obviously are more passionate than others. I've heard from friends whose parents went to Imes the first year it was open. They went to Imes. They have nieces who go to Imes whose children went to Imes, are still there. I've attended each of the community forums at Coyote Ridge, Bicentennial North, Desert Garden, Sine, and Imes, and I've heard the concerns and the questions from everybody. They've brought up some excellent points. And we've heard today from some amazing students about how this is going to impact them directly. I've spoken to board members from across the city and the state who have told me, we're watching you, so we're not alone in this. We are not the only district going through this. I've talked to a board member who went through this previously and expressed to me that their community was up in arms, same as ours is, with complete understanding. And that community is thriving. Those children are doing wonderful. And I've watched for over 10 years as our legislature has not funded our schools. I've watched where they have stripped hundreds of millions of dollars away from K-12 education. And I've been disgusted. They've sent Arizona to the bottom of per pupil spending. And now we have to deal with it. And I understand and respect the significance of Imes and the community that they serve. I hear that these children and their parents went there, and they don't see Imes as a building, as just a school. They see it as part of their family. They've created bonds with their friends and with the teachers. And we heard from one student who said, "Put yourself in our shoes." And I'll tell you, I can't, because that's never been anything I've experienced. But I'll tell you what, this is probably one of the most difficult decisions I've ever made in my life. And one parent brought up that her child has an IEP. And I have a son that had an IEP starting before kindergarten here in this district. And so I hear her fear and I understand her fear. And I've been in her shoes. And I was afraid when my son went from first grade to kindergarten, or kindergarten to first grade, all through school, switching high schools. And he did wonderful. Tonight, I am committed to ensuring that this decision is implemented fairly and equitably in impacting our families, our staff, with as little impact as possible. And I vote aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
I want to express my vote at this time. My vote will be aye, and I'm going to explain my aye. First, I just want everyone to know that I've heard everyone's desire to keep the schools open, and I understand, and I feel the emotions behind those wishes. But unfortunately, as a governing board member, we have to make financial decisions, and I wish we could make our decisions on more than just the finances that we're in charge of at this time. I agree with Ms. Pimentel wholeheartedly that our schools are not funded correctly by the state, and if the state funded our schools, we wouldn't be in this situation. And I hope that all those that are passionate and have come forward and can keep coming forward and speak to our legislators about how they can better fund our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said before, this is a decision that no board member anywhere wants to have to make. But there is a responsibility before us. And I agree wholeheartedly. The school is the heart of the community. And I have great faith in our administration that they will do everything to support these families as they go through this transition. But I also have to vote aye. Motion passes. We are now on 5B.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the closure of Melvin East Sine School and corresponding boundary changes to reassign students to Horizon and Glen F. Burton schools, effective for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
Do we have any discussion at this time?
Madam President, with the reasons that I previously gave, I make a motion to approve the closure of Melvin East Sine.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay. I have a first and a second. Ms. Wilson?
Again, with a heavy heart, and again, feeling your pain, I have to vote aye.
Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
And again, it's nothing that any of us want to do, but I also vote aye. Motion passes. We are now on item 5C.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the closure and repurpose of Coyote Ridge School and corresponding boundary changes to reassign students to Discovery School effective for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Any discussion on the item?
Madam President, if I may. Coyote Ridge is the school where my children went to school. And I think as a community member, stepping away as a board member, as a community member, I think that the plan for repurposing is needed. I believe that this is something that can really benefit our community. And again, with a heavy heart, I'd like to make the recommendation, make the motion to approve the closure of Coyote Ridge.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Ms. Wilson?
I think this, the closing of Coyote Ridge is, and there on down, is going to lead us into phase 2, of which I think it's only fair to give the administration, the district, a chance to plan for what is inevitable. I'm hoping that maybe things will change, and if they do, it'll come back to the board, and we can reevaluate maybe one or two or none, hopefully. But specific to Coyote Ridge, turning it into a repurposing is, like Ms. Pimentel said, I think is very needed, and it is a beautiful school, and it does hurt me to vote aye.
Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
I'd just like to say that for me, Coyote Ridge was probably one of the harder decisions of all the ones that we need to make today, because unlike the other 4 schools, it is still relatively new. I know there's a lot of community support, but I also know and recognize that there's things that the district needs to do to move forward. And sometimes, again, we have to make decisions that's in the best long-term financial interest of the district. And as such, I vote aye.
Ms. Smith?
I'm going to vote aye, but I do have some reservations with my vote, and I really feel that even though that we've voted aye, that it would be in the best interest of the community to make sure that we have a task force that would hear other suggestions and that may maybe may change our decisions in the future. And I know that this can be brought back to us.
Okay. I actually spoke to a young man, very wise young man, earlier today, and specifically about this situation. And he works with young people that currently are in group homes, and he sees the need for mental wellness. And we know, based on our zip codes, unfortunately, we have a high need in our community, which means our students and their parents are the ones that need the assistance the most. That being said, I need to vote aye because we need to support our whole child and the parents that love them. We are now on item 5D.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board. It is recommended the governing board approve the closure and repurpose of Desert Garden School and corresponding boundary changes to reassign students to Challenger and Don Menzendick schools effective for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Do we have any discussion on the item?
I'm sorry, I keep pushing the button. A motion to approve action item D, the closure of Desert Garden and repurpose boundary changes.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Wilson?
I just want to say that I think repurposing Desert Garden for a preschool and then the kindergarten testing, that is putting that to such great use. And I'm excited to have all that placed in one setting. I have a grandson that will be entering preschool rather quickly, and I hope that's the last one, but you never know. And so, yeah, I'm kind of excited for that. I'm sorry to see that close, but again, it's really not closing. It's going to be repurposed and for a very something very special. So with that, I'll vote aye.
Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
And I would just like to add, I know we had some parents that spoke at the forum, and they were just a little leery of, their little ones being with the big kids. But as a parent whose children all went through a K-8 campus, you will find that there's some uniqueness to that when you have the reading buddies of those older children that are helping the younger ones, and they actually will watch out for them when they're walking home from school. So it can be and will be a beautiful thing for you. Also, the repurposing of a campus, it's giving it another chapter. And with that, I vote aye. We are now on item 5E.
Madam President, member of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the closure of Bicentennial North School and corresponding boundary changes to reassign students to Bicentennial South and Don Menzendick School effective for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the closure of Bicentennial North.
I will second.
Okay, Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. We are now on item 5F.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve Phase 1 and Phase 2 boundary change proposals for the 2021, 2022, and 2022-2023 school years as presented.
Do we have any discussion?
Madam President, I believe that for me personally, the attendance boundaries was very important. I think that it was, whenever you see a school bus come up to Grand Avenue where the trains are, it makes my heart drop, thinking of what could happen, knowing that this has happened in different places. So that was important for me, not just as a board member, but as a community member, that our community, our children, and our bus drivers are safe. And I felt that it was important and prudent that we keep the children east of Grand, and the children west of Grand, similarly so. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the attendance boundary changes.
I will second.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Pimentel?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
I can honestly say, with regards to the very specific boundary line that you spoke of, I have seen students that struggle to participate in school activities just because they can't get across Grand Avenue. So with that being said, chair votes aye. Motion passes. I want to at least let the community know that none of these decisions were taken lightly. And we know we still have more work to do, and we need to rebuild some relationships as evidenced over the last couple of weeks. And that we will start doing.
Yeah, I would also like to just make a quick comment that I want to thank everyone for their support in our district and the support that you've shown through this whole thing. I hope that you'll continue to support the district and understand that I think the best is yet to come. I think you'll be pleased in the end with what happens with the district. If we didn't do this, it scares me to think of what would have happened. So just please continue to support us.
If I may, this was not easy for any person you see sitting here or anybody behind the scenes. Closing schools is not anything any school district wants to do. However, that said, we want to do the best by every single student we have here. We want to ensure their safety. We want to ensure their education. We want to ensure their success. And I believe that had we not made these decisions, we would just be kicking the can down the road, and it would be even worse. I'd like to thank the students and the families and the parents and the community that came out, and I think with some of the students we had here today, we see our replacements. We have some extremely intelligent students that were here, very passionate parents that spoke up, and I'd like to thank them for coming and speaking up today and this week and last week.
I think this is probably the toughest decision that this district has seen, at least for this amount of time that I've been in this district. I just want the community to know that our decisions tonight is not reflective upon the faculty and the teachers and the staff of these schools. It is not reflective upon the ability of the students to succeed at these schools. It is not reflected upon the socioeconomic status of the schools and the parents in the community around them. It's just reflective of necessity. I want to tilt my cap to the teachers and the staff of these schools who helped raise these kids, raise their kids' parents. Judging by what we saw here tonight and at the last public forum, at the last public meeting here, as well as the public forums that we've seen at all the school sites, you all have done an amazing job. You've turned kids into budding young adults. They have a bright future ahead of them, no matter where they end up going. And we hope that you come to kind of see it this way as we transition. Change is always going to be happening in one form or another. We hope to make this as painless as possible, listening to the plans that the district had in place to kind of facilitate this transition. I look forward to these students continuing to succeed in their new environment, their new school, with the same friends they have now, and maybe make some new friends along the way.
With that, we just need a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?